Hey guys, welcome back to the Unleashed podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Reger, and today we're chatting with my friends Kurt and Kristen Luidhart. They are the authors of the book Liberty Spenders. They also have a podcast of the same name, but I met them many years ago, about 20 plus years ago. Met Kurt in 1999, actually, when I was working in politics. He was a college student at Indiana Wesleyan University, and they rose up the ranks in politics, started their own political firm where they were helping campaigns raise money, digital dollars, using the internet. And they were basically at the forefront of that, one of the only companies doing that. And so they have now taken and pivoted and are using that same skill set and turning it into the business world. So how they really feel like business is where people can change the world. I love what they said here in their book, that they feel called to combine our passions to change the world one business at a time. If we want to make the world a better place, we need to support business owners with integrity who add value to their communities as they pursue the American dream. They are the ones creating jobs, supporting charities, and taking on some of the toughest problems in today's world. They said that it's amazing. Their resume is really incredible. They've helped elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and one president. They worked for President Trump. We've raised over $500 million from over 13 million transactions and received honors such as being named the number 466 fastest growing company in the U.S. in 2019, among other accolades. Awesome people. They told some really funny stories, even one where Kurt split his pants in front of President George H.W. Bush. We kicked it off with that. This was a really fun episode. If you're political, you're going to love the stories. But we also talked business stuff, and used the Trump campaign as an example, and especially President Trump himself as an example. Whether you love him or hate him, he understands his audience, he understands his people, what they care about, what motivates them, and that's why he's been really successful. But in this book, they talk about the 5 Ps, and I'll just mention a couple of them. We go over this in the episode, where the first one is knowing your people, and number 2 is how to position yourself in front of those people. And it's so powerful. This is a really good episode if you're thinking business strategy and how to find your right audience. And also, really key in this is just conviction marketing. Your people, your audience, want to know how you feel about even politics and religion. So to be vocal out on social media, sharing your views, don't have to be antagonistic, but you will draw people that are like you, and people will follow you and be more loyal to you when they share your values. You think of, like, they use examples of like Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby, how they are very faith forward. And that may turn some people off, but it creates raving fans who are more just loyal to their brand. And so this was a really good episode for those types of strategies. And if you're political, you'll enjoy it too. So here is my episode with Kurt and Kristen. Kurt, Kristen, welcome to Unleashed.
We're here. We're ready.
I love it.
We're unleashed.
You are. Let's help unleash some more people. Guys, this is so fun to have you on, because just of how far we go back, and we ran into each other at NRB, the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, just a few weeks ago here in town. And it's cool to see what you're doing now. But as I told you before, I want to hear people's stories. And I love, we could go way back and geek out on like inside information stuff that would bore my audience, talking about how we met, and we may share some of that. But in your book, The Liberty Spenders, you mentioned how you split your pants in front of George H.W. Bush. So let's start with that, and then talk about other.
I love it. Well, that'll humanize us right off. That's good. Let's
maybe. The story there's kind of interesting. George H.W. Bush's grandson is George P. Bush, who is actually Jeb's son.
Yep.
And until recently, he was the statewide land commissioner in Texas, which sounds like a weird position, but it's actually a very important position in Texas. It's related to oil rights and all that, which is a big deal down there. And so he was an elected official, and he was a client of ours.
Okay.
And he was having a big get-together.
Yeah.
In Kennebunkport, Maine, which is the ancestral home, or at least the recently ancestral home of the Bush family, right? And right there on the ocean there in Kennebunkport, right on kind of a little peninsula area. There's this beautiful property that I believe it was George H.W. Bush's father, maybe even his grandfather purchased long before they were in politics. And it was maybe a little strategy session. They were getting together, campaign team, some donors, and we were going to go spend some time there. And they have on that sort of compound, I don't know what else to call it, right?
Yeah.
They have what they call cabins. Now, this is what only the Bush family would call a cabin. Most family would call a really nice house, right?
Yeah.
But George H.W. and Barbara had a house, and then Jeb has a place there. George W. Bush has a place there.
Yeah.
And there's another, Neil's the other son, I think. So it was going to be hosted at Jeb's cabin, right, for George P. So I'm pumped. Kristen's with me, right?
Did you know the president was going to be there?
Yes, that was part of the appeal.
Okay, good.
HW might make an appearance. At this time, of course, he is aged. He's now been. This is even after George W. Bush was in the White House. So he's wheelchair bound at this point. So is Barbara. So it wasn't clear for sure if they were coming, but we were going to go to their house. So the assumption is if they're at all in good health, they'll come. And so that was also part of the appeal because George H.W. Bush is the first Republican. I say he's the first Republican I ever voted for. That's really not true. I voted for him in my elementary school presidential election. Right. And which was a big deal to me, right? Yeah. In 1980, let's see, he would have run in 88 and won. But the year he won, I voted for him. Yeah. So I always had a lot of love for him. He was in everything I've read about him, such a great guy.
Sweet.
And but I'm excited, elated. We do the campaign meetings. Everybody takes a bus over to this place. They got Secret Service checking you all in, and we start the event. And lo and behold, up in their scooters, they had these little mechanized wheelchairs. Come George H.W. Bush and Barbara Bush coming up. They had this little paved pathway. And they wind around and they had a little ramp and they scooted up onto the porch. And then they did the traditional grip and grin thing. I'm getting the eyes from Chris. I'm like, you're telling the long version here.
No, it's all good. This is fun.
So it was like, we're going to do the grip and grin deal. So we did that. We've got a great picture. Maybe I'll send it to you after the episode. You can put it up. We had a great picture of the two of us leaning over George H.W. and Barbara, kind of smiling real big. I got my suit jacket on. But it was a small group, so the grip and grin didn't last very long. And I noticed later on that H.W. Bush and Barbara were sitting by themselves on the porch, and no one was talking to them. And I thought, this is my
opportunity.
Right.
I can have I can have a real conversation and say I really sat down and talked to one of the most important human beings in the 20th century. And it will be the man who was there when the Berlin Wall fell. I mean, all of that stuff, right? And I'm thinking, what can I get him to talk about, right? Because, of course, he's probably bored with, people these days wanting to talk politics. So I thought, what I'll do, I'll ask him about the house and the property, right? Because we know it's something of pride for him and the family. So this is my plan. I got a whole plan. I'm going to ask him, tell me the story of this place. What is it? What's the background? And so I take a big, giant step up onto the porch. I'm not doing the stairs. I'm getting right up next to him. Right. Big, giant step. And you know how it is. Yes. Right? You feel the pop.
Yes.
You've ever split your pants before? Hopefully most of your audience are in great health and never done that. But and you just feel it. Now, the problem I had was I feel like if you look at it, then everyone notices, right? I'm right standing in front of the two of them.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if they see it. I don't know if anybody else is seeing it because the whole group's kind of below me on the porch, right? And I don't know if it's a little pop, big, I don't know what happened. Oh, no. I've got to just kind of go with it. Yeah. So I asked him my planned question. He starts talking. It was the right question to ask. Super engaged. But the whole time I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Because I gotta.
So are you enjoying the moment, or you're completely distracted?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
Barbara's like got those piercing eyes. Everybody talks about that when they write about her. Like, she's just such an intense human being.
Yes.
And she stared straight at me. I'm like, she definitely knows I just busted my pants. He's talking about the house. I am not listening. And sometimes when you're not listening to people and they stop talking and it's clear that you were supposed to say something and you haven't been paying any attention. Of course, I've just
because you're thinking about your pants.
Yeah, I've just done this
moment, and it's just
it's ruined. I have no idea to this day what he said when I asked him my question, and I just remember sort of politely saying, "Well, that was really great. I'm glad you." And then sort of backing my way off the porch.
Yeah,
you didn't want to turn around.
Thinking I don't know, turn around and
right.
Show my underwear to the former first lady, and got off. And then I remember asking Kristen, because she had no idea what had just happened.
Yes,
like so did you?
And guess what?
Tell me.
It was fine. You would not have noticed. It was not a big deal.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's my funny, like, how that's the only time I've ever really had a chance to have a real intimate conversation with a president of the United States, and I totally blew it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you've ever been a part of a group where they go around and say, tell a fun fact about yourself? Well, you would win that every single time.
Yeah. Well, I have told it, and it always gets a good laugh. And it's such a funny thing for me, because I think if I had listed which president I wanted to meet, I'd probably put him down, living president at least, right?
Sure.
And not that I wouldn't be glad to meet his son, George W. would be another great one. But yes, I totally miffed on that one.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Kurt.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Kurt. Anyone that knows him, I mean, he's just so sincere, and he just was. I mean, he was just like as giddy as a schoolboy, just so excited. And then later, he's just, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, ruined. I should have just said it. Who cares? Who cares?
Right, don't worry about it.
Yeah, they probably had weirder things happen. I mean, the guy threw up on the Japanese ambassador.
Yes, I remember that.
Like the fact that I burst my pants, probably the least entertaining thing that's happened to him. And I should have just had the conversation, because I had his attention clearly. But
wow, oh my gosh,
that's a fun event.
That's a good one. Well, go back before that. I mean, so we met, I was working with David McIntosh. It was 1999 probably when I first, because that campaign span 99 2000. Met you at Indiana Wesleyan University, and then you guys got together, and I was working for Mike Pence. But tell me and we could geek out on that all day long, but just tell me your story, like how you went from politics to business, how you got even interested in politics, how you guys met through all of that, anything that you want to share.
No, he's looking at me. He's like, all right, you can talk. Well, we're both of us are chatty, so we're not good about giving the short version, but we did meet in college, and we met in the college Republicans. So I tease him for being a nerd. We're both super nerds. And so that's where we met, got passionate. We really felt like that was our way to make a difference in the world. Yeah. And, started a little business, not knowing anything, working in Indiana, working in state races, and yes, how we met. And then, of course, very quickly realized, oh, well, Indiana doesn't have elections every year. So if we want to stay in business, we better expand beyond our home state. And so we started driving, and we have driven over...
We say over 1 million miles.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure that's actually low, because
it's got to be more than
we
that,
couldn't afford to fly for years, so we drove everywhere. I did a 14-hour trip once to Oklahoma City for one meeting.
Oh my gosh.
By the way, the meeting canceled.
It was two meetings.
Okay, it was two.
Well, one you cared about, and then you added on a second, and the one that you cared about.
Yeah, the guy kicked me out of his office 10 minutes in.
Oh my God.
Which is another story.
Yes.
Because of who else he was meeting with. They were warring factions.
Yeah.
And so he was not interested. And Kurt's thinking, I drove 14 hours.
14 hours?
to get booted. Now later we ended up doing some work with him. So again, it makes for a funny story. But so we hit the road, we traveled, we were just two kids, and you will appreciate this, but for anyone else, in the political industry, it's different, I think, than how a lot of people start their businesses, or entrepreneurs, where they started in their garage or they started as a side hustle while they have a job. And that's just not the way it typically works. So in this industry, you work on a campaign. So you're an employee of either one of the major national committees or you kind of rise the ranks on campaigns. And then once you're super connected and you have all these relationships and a track record, then you go out and hang your shingle and you start your company.
Yep.
Well, we were the exact opposite. We had never done anything noteworthy whatsoever, except working on these races in our home state. And I think we did a good job, but we hadn't done anything of real significance. And we were building our business in a more traditional sense from small.
Yeah. What was your first race?
2006, we founded the company, and we'd been working on, State House and governor's campaign.
Yeah.
Burton.
So yeah, Dan Burton.
Dan Burton, awesome. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm just an amazing human who's misunderstood.
Right.
But yeah, so he was our first paying client. We did work for the Indiana Family Institute, which we then later served on the board years later. So that was a beautiful thing. And so we started traveling. We just were like, okay, well, we better hustle. We had no money. We had to sleep in the car. And so I can also tell people, if you ever get into that place, I can tell you I can tell you don't try to sleep in a Walmart parking lot because they're paroled and they'll kick you out. Go to a hotel parking lot and give those advice of what you've learned.
Yes.
Rest areas work too.
Yeah. So we just hustled and we were just building relationships. And we were just, nothing was ever handed to us. We were not connected. But we were earnest and hardworking and wanted to serve clients. And so we got these tremendous opportunities. We were taking races that other people who were big and notable didn't want.
Yes.
And then we did well. And we had this breakout year. And so that just led to, nearly 20 years in politics. It's now led to, we've helped elect over 100 members of Congress,
incredible,
15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and President Trump.
That's incredible.
And we've helped raise over $500 million for these people. So we got really good at raising money online.
Yes.
And that became our specialty. And it was just in the last, couple of years, we just really felt this calling on our hearts and felt God telling us, okay, we want to make a difference. I still think it matters. It, of course, matters who's elected, but no politician's going to save us. And, when you understand the movements that shift in government, it's downstream from culture. And so where else can you make a difference but through, entrepreneurs and people that are adding value, they're solving problems, they're serving their communities, they're serving their employees, their families. And we just have such a heart. I mean, we're very entrepreneurial. We've done all kinds of crazy things. In order to make money, we actually were selling fireworks. I was installing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you when I saw that, was it Lonnie who told you about that?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was Eric Turner.
Because Lonnie Zarnicki used to sell fireworks in the summer. And so I just remembered and wondered if it was Lonnie when I read that.
Yeah, that's like the real truth of like the entrepreneurial spirit was we did that to help pay for our wedding. We were getting married in 2004. We had no money.
Okay.
And so we had jobs and then we were trying to figure out how to sell fireworks. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
But that's really what kicked it all off.
That's so cool.
But yeah.
No, I mean, there's something that happened. I think both of us thought we were just going to have jobs. My idea was, well, I'm going to run a presidential campaign, so my job will be campaign manager. That's what I want to do.
Sure.
And Kristen went through a couple different things. I know you were going to be a lawyer, but it was always sort of, we're going to do these job things. And then we did a little bit of multi-level marketing for a bit. So that sort of exposed us to the idea of personal development, but also that, hey, you can make money doing a side hustle, whatever. But it never really took off for us. It wasn't until we sold fireworks when we thought, now, wait a second. We set up 3 fireworks tents, the month before we got married and sold about $25,000, I think, in total. We kept 9 of it.
Yeah.
And paid for our wedding. And we were thinking, well, we made $9,000 in 10 days. Why would we ever work for somebody else? I mean, my job at that point
naive.
paid $22,000. Right. Yeah. I mean, my first job out of college was $24,000, and I made half of that almost in 10 days. So then we thought, well, we should do more of it. And that's how we got into Christmas lights, because we thought, well, we'll do fireworks in the summer and Christmas lights in the winter.
Yeah.
And there's wild stories on both of those. If you have a 3-hour long podcast, we can do.
Kurt was almost arrested. I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some really awesome stories there. We could have filled 4 chapters with this crazy stuff that happened.
Right.
But we never turned back from there. Like, I've never thought since then, seriously, that we had any long-term design to have a job. I had jobs some during that process. Like when we started our Prosper Group in 2006, I still had a job and Kristen still had a job, but I probably have some accountability I need to make for all the time I spent on my side hustle during job time,
Sure.
which was probably not terribly ethical, but that was, 20 years ago. So maybe,
No, it wasn't.
maybe the principals forget, but it's such a big transition for us. I distinctly remember the two of us saying to each other, why would we ever, particularly the second year in fireworks, because the second year in fireworks, we made twice as much money.
Wow.
And we thought, why would we ever go back?
Yeah.
And I also thought, why would I do this multi-level marketing anymore? Because I hated it.
Yeah.
Right. I knew we could make money in it, but I hated it. I thought, I don't need to do it. Right. I hate it. That's not the only way I can make money. Not as a disparagement on anybody who loves it. But we hated it.
Yeah.
And we were like, we can do fireworks, we can do Christmas lights and plenty of other things. And it was a big start of our journey.
Well, I think we just felt like we wanted to control our destiny.
Yeah.
Now, anybody who seeks that path, that entrepreneurial path,
Yes.
crazy enough to think, through my own grit and hard work and with the blessing of the Lord, hopefully some grace, I'm going to carve my path here, or I'm passionate about some solution that I have or some way that I can add value. And so I think we felt that, and in the marketing companies, like he mentioned, the MLMs, again, it's not nothing wrong with it. It just felt we were relying too much on other people, and we just didn't feel like it wasn't about how much value we could create. And so we were attracted. We just took us on a different path.
And then, we started the agency, as Kristen referenced, and then the agency took off.
Wow.
So we stopped doing fireworks and Christmas lights a couple years in.
Okay.
I could still distinctly remember where I took Kristen out for dinner at her favorite restaurant, which is Kona Grill up in Carmel, where she loves the fish. If you ever come to Carmel, they have a great fish dish. And I said, we need to stop doing this other stuff, which was a controversial position to take, because we were still
It was scary.
we were young in the business.
Yeah.
And so to say, the agency's taking up enough of our time, we shouldn't do the Christmas lights. That was what we had done the fireworks, I think, that summer. It was time to get spooled up for Christmas light business. And we said, we shouldn't do it. And I can remember how controversial that was. I've pitched Kristen some decent things in life, and I've also pitched her some really bad things.
Yeah.
That was one of the better ideas, I think, is not doing Christmas
Because that
lights.
focused you, right? It focused your efforts on building this agency.
Yeah, which was doing well. God really blessed us.
Yeah.
We didn't deserve the business we were getting. I think we did good work, so we were rewarded for that. But we didn't have any business doing the clients we were doing in 2010, which was our big breakout year.
Wow.
Kristen said it. 2010 was that big Tea Party year. For those of you who are still who remember that, it feels like a gajillion years ago. So a lot of challenger long shot primary candidates won. So we didn't get the clients everybody wanted. We got the stuff nobody wanted. And then they won.
Wow.
And that didn't have to do with us. There was a trend happening, but we raised them a lot.
You were at the right place at the right
You were
time.
at the right place at the right time, which, by the way, there's so much in
favor
business
of God
stories.
Yeah.
Or the trend line, right, of an industry growth, and you're at the right time. You can be early. You can have the right idea and be early, and it's almost better to be late than to be early. And so, it was absolutely the right time.
It was our first year. We did $28 million total that we raised that year for 3 Senate candidates, primarily Sharon Angle, who's running in Nevada.
Yeah.
Scott Brown, who was running for Senate in Massachusetts and then became a U.S. Senator and then an ambassador to New Zealand for Trump and is actually thinking about running again this year for Senate in New Hampshire. And then who was the lady from Delaware?
Christine O'Donnell.
Christine O'Donnell, who's
Not
famous
that it matters, but
who's famous for that "I am not a witch" TV ad from 2010.
I remember that.
And it was really just like, as I look back on it, after a while, I felt like I started to believe there was something like I did. But it's easy to look back now and say, if we would have gotten some of the customers we wanted, we'd have had the opposite effect that year. And so it was a great blessing. And God did that every cycle. In 12, we thought we were going to really struggle, and then we got in on a presidential campaign, and which was interesting. And then in 2014, things were a little dicey, and then Kristen got us involved in Scott Walker in Wisconsin, which really became a great profitable client for us. In 2016, we worked for 8 different Republican candidates for president.
Oh my gosh, what's that? Walk me through that process of like getting the customer in that industry, because it's like it changes all the time. It's like, if you get in with a big client, like let's say you work for Coca-Cola, you may be working with them for a long time, but every 4 years or even every 2 years, you're looking for new people, and it's people pop up and you're like, who do we want to? So what does it even look like when there's like all these candidates you see? Ooh, there's 50 people, let's just say. And like, how do you know which ones to approach? Are you going after it based on their values, or is it just like, ooh, we think they're going to win, so let's go after them? Is it a mixture of both? I'm just curious.
Well, I will let Kurt answer that question, but I will just say, it's a terrible business model. It's terrible. The short answer is we're professional gamblers, is what I would say, because every campaign's a startup. Okay, so just imagine that. Okay, so they're all startups.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to raise the money, because it's like you're signing a contract, but they have no track record. They have no money in the bank. They start with zero. And it's the only type of business where their goal is to go out of business and to spend every dollar they have by the end of the campaign.
True. Yeah.
And so there's so much outside of your control.
Yeah.
As a vendor, right, as someone who's trying to be in business and try to project your revenues, you cannot, because you don't know if they're going to succeed. You don't know if they're going to lose their primary, say something stupid, lose. Yeah. And to your point, you start all over again. So the short thing is, it's not a great business model for projections and managing cash flow. We've really had to learn how to be disciplined with managing money and all of those things, because it is so volatile. Yeah.
There's a matrix. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know how valuable this is for other people, but there's a matrix. Okay. because of everything Kristen just said. So we're going to look at, do we like this person? Would we be glad to have helped elect them? Right. Yes. So that's there. It's sort of ideology. And that doesn't mean we agree with them on every position, but no one wants to work for somebody that makes them feel iggy inside. Then we got to look at their viability. Could they actually win? And that's often where the first two, contradict each other, because you have the one that you really want to help, but they have no chance in winning. The other person has got much better awareness. They're very popular. Or it's a red state or it's a blue state, and this is a red state candidate. Yeah. So you got to look at viability, and the reason viability is important is because people who can't win don't raise any money, and they can't afford to pay us. Right. And then it's money. You got to ask these people. It's an awkward conversation for every candidate. Where are you coming up with this money that you're going to spend on this race? And that's why in so many cases right now, these races have gotten so much more expensive, and why we're seeing many more millionaires in Congress and the Senate is because the only people who can afford to do it anymore are people who can write a check. Yeah. And that's almost always
unfortunate.
Right.
Almost always a question we're asking, like, can you put in personal funds for this? Because you can only raise it $3,700 at a time. Yeah. So if you're running for for Congress, and some of these races are getting into the $5, $6, $7 million to win a race, and you got to raise it $3,700 at a time. I think a lot of the public imagines that all this money is coming from there's some fat cat rich dude who gives $7 million to somebody to run for Congress. Right. And that's just not the way the world works. It's these guys are full time.
It's limited. You can't do that.
Yeah, these guys are full time telemarketers, right? They think they're running. Gosh. They think they're campaigning. They think, I'm going to do county fairs, and they do some of that. But the reality is, it's a full-time telemarketing job.
I remember
when you run, and you got to ask these people, are you willing to do it? That's one of the reasons, David McIntosh was such a good candidate. He was a good fundraiser, a good telemarketer, very disciplined, willing to make the calls, the whole deal.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of look at all that stuff, and then you call around. That old statement about network is your net worth is so important here, because we've built over 20 years a good network of political operatives in every state. So you call up the Ryan Reger equivalent, say, hey, I know you're in Indiana 6th District. I hear there's this guy named Mike Pence going to run. Has he got any chance at all? And the local guy says, well, yeah, actually. He's a radio star. He's really compelling. He's got the support of the county chairman, and I think he'll win. And so you got to trust on that, your network, because you also don't, from the outside looking in, you can't really tell sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, after all that being said, you're still wrong a lot.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh my gosh.
Trying to predict, people would ask us, so who's going to win? You guys are professionals in this. And we'll say, well, it's because we're professionals that we tell you we have no idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you do your best. But, trying to decide, this person can win, this person can't. I mean.
Right.
Not anymore. To your point, it's so, polling sucks.
Yeah.
You can't really, my pollster friends are going to be like, oh, you're crazy, but it's not as accurate as it used to be.
Sure.
And less helpful, probably a little more helpful on some of these smaller races, but polling in some of these big campaigns like the presidential race have not been helpful.
No, not at all.
Recent cycles. And so, it's like,
I think what I could say that might be more universally helpful, because this translates, is just one thing that helped us is we got to know outside. Kurt mentions these factors in this matrix, which is a loose term. But we learned, who do we serve really well? What, and so knowing, okay, who are the customers? Who do I want to be a hero for? Who do I feel like I can really produce? And what are the characteristics that I look for? And that's just true of any business. When you're trying to figure out who's your ideal customer, who is your ideal client, and what does that make up? That's not just their size, the type of people, what kind of personalities are there? Where do you fill gaps? Do you help them see things that they wouldn't see? Where are your skills complementary?
Yes.
And so we learned that, and we learned, okay, we've gotten really good at this grassroots fundraising. We're not great at regular social content and doing that. It just takes too labor intensive. So we got to know, and we got to narrow down our niche. And that has really helped us be successful, because
that's powerful.
It makes it even easier for us to know, you know what? Yes, I can absolutely produce for you, and I'm willing to stake and put that risk out there, because I feel confident that I can do great work and that we can work well together. So the more you understand your ideal customer, and also who's going to light you up, where are you going to do your best work? Yeah. And I think that helps who to try to get as a customer.
Oh, that's powerful. So, like, for example, let's just take a presidential campaign. Because you're Republican strategist, you already know you're not going to be working for the Democrat side, and not trying to get political on this podcast necessarily, but that helps you know that, like, if they're the Green Party, a Democrat, it's an automatic no. Just like I might know, that's not the type of person I feel like I'm called to help. So that's a no. Nothing wrong with them. That's just not who God has called me to help. And so now, if you get to a presidential race, and let's say there's 12 guys running for president, we're at the Republican primary. How do you make that? What does that look like? Because somebody may be in the race for 2 weeks. Is it a matter of like you said, a matrix? I'm curious. Is it almost like beliefs versus can they win versus, and then like what's the highest of those?
Yeah, and the team.
The team at that level
Okay.
is a lot about relationships.
Yeah,
Got
you know, to give you, well, I'll tell you exactly how it goes down, because in 2016 there were
that did happen.
17 Republican candidates who ran
gosh,
for
yeah.
president, and the person I thought 17th most likely to win was Donald Trump. Right?
Wow. And can
So-
you like
No,
if there's
maybe
17 of
15.
them,
Maybe
can you only pick one to help, or could you actually work for 4 of them at the same time?
Well, we worked for 8 of them.
Okay.
And
Very unique circumstances.
we have a unique expertise. There's 17 candidates. There are not 17 firms that can do what we do, and so we did some list brokering and donation stuff for all of them, almost all.
Okay,
So
okay.
8 of the 17 of them.
Nice.
And but how it all went down was so it's 2015, right? And I had worked more specifically with Governor Chris Christie when he ran for his reelection in 2013. And at this point, he was pretty hot commodity, especially in 2013. He won decisively in a super blue state. Had a little bit of that scandal, the stupidest scandal in the world, called Bridgegate, right? Which, the Democrats used very effectively to try to discredit him in his home state, all over whether or not he, shut down a lane of traffic on a highway. But he was still a very viable candidate for president. We'd worked with him before, so we were already part of that team going into 2016. But what we did was we firewalled off the firm. We thought, okay, I'm going to help Chris Christie. We're going to firewall off part of the firm. And the other governor we'd worked with pretty closely was Scott Walker. So Kristen goes and gets hired on for Scott Walker, who at the very beginning, if you remember the history of the 2016 campaign, Scott Walker was he was the hot one, right, going in 2015. And, he had just come off a decisive victory in Wisconsin in 2014.
Well, and recounts.
They went after him. He raises a lot of money. He's a very innovative guy, fought the unions there and won. And so he's running, and so there's always one who does this. It was Tim Pawlenty 4 years before. He got in and got too aggressive and peaked too soon, and within 90 days was functionally bankrupt and had to withdraw from the campaign and spent the next 3 or 4 years paying back vendors for it, which, by the way,
to his credit,
he didn't have to, but he did it, right?
He is full of integrity, and I adore him. I am his number one fan.
Yeah. So he does. So Kristen's basically got a job there for about 90 days, or was a client for about 90 days.
Yeah.
And then Ted Cruz, who had actually considered going actually all in for in 2016. We had been approached about coming on staff and had turned it down because we didn't want to leave our business go.
Sure. And move and
our good friend Jeff Rowe was running that campaign. And so by this time, Ted Cruz is now looking really good. He had put together a great campaign. It's going into the election year. And so Kristen gets hired by Ted Cruz to help with some website stuff. And so that's starting. And then Chris Christie gets to New Hampshire, which is a state he needed to do really well in. And he didn't do well enough, so he withdraws. So now we're all on Team Cruz. And so we built the website. We were doing a couple other things for Cruz. We built this really cool donation technology we called Backer, which doesn't exist anymore, but was really fun and cool. And then Indiana was in May of 2016. So we're great presidential history lesson. May of 2016 was.
I hope people are not bored with years. They've already turned this.
That was the big last stand for anyone who could maybe beat Trump in that primary. Cruz needed to win Indiana to stay viable. Trump had all the momentum now. Everyone else is out but Kasich, who's playing the role of spoiler right now by taking votes that would have gone to Ted Cruz, which the Kasich team still denies to this day. But they were really, I think, not. They were very unhelpful to Ted Cruz at the time. But so we ran Indiana for Cruz. We were now Jeff Rowe's a smart political operative, so he made us Indiana strategists. And in return, we scheduled 38 events for him and never got paid.
Oh man.
But it was the most fun. We had so much fun. It was like 30 days. And
We
it
were
was all
happy to
you
do
know
it.
how it is. You spent time in Indiana too. No one campaigns in Indiana for president of the United States, right? And so everyone was so excited there was actually a viable presidential campaign in Indiana. So we were drawing crowds everywhere. It was so much fun to organize. And then of course that was the night that Ted Cruz, he lost Indiana and then withdrew. He got up on stage. We had no idea this was going to happen. He got up on stage and said he wasn't running again and withdrew from the race. It was marginally awkward for us because, you know, he had all these people who worked with him nonstop for almost 2 years and like fought tooth and nail. And they were all, he had flown them all in to be there when he withdrew. And we had just basically come on.
We're like the Johnny come lately,
right?
and we're there like, oh, we probably shouldn't be here.
Yeah,
right
it just
now.
felt like we were at somebody's somebody's funeral, but we weren't related to the family, you know. And Glenn Beck was there, and you know, like awkwardly, you know, we're trying to like let's talk to Glenn Beck because you know he's not, you know, it was such a weird thing. So he withdraws. So we thought, well, we built this cool tech for Cruz. Let's see if we can get Trump to buy it. So we called Corey Lewandowski, who was Trump's campaign manager at the time, and got him on the phone magically. I didn't know Corey Lewandowski from, I mean, maybe we'd met before, but he didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was. And he said, well, I don't do any of the digital stuff. I'm going to introduce you to this guy named Brad Parscale, who does all the digital stuff. He's based in San Antonio. He's never done a political campaign ever before. And, you know, but he's the guy you need to talk to.
Wow.
And so he introduces us to Brad Parscale. And at this time, we're probably the only professional digital operative in the United States of America who knows who Brad Parscale is. Because Brad had run this entire Trump digital operation on his laptop and with like two helpers.
Wow.
To date until like June of that election year.
Which is just unheard of. And the you know, and Hillary Clinton's campaign at that point had 200 people just in the digital team on staff, and here's the opposite. So it was just it was not a situation that you would ever see replicated. It was an absolute kind of moment in time.
So here's the silliness of the conversation. So I said, Brad, we got this cool tech. He says, well, that's great. I'd love that, but I need people. I need bodies.
I need help.
I have a budget this month for $150,000. Can you help me do some email fundraising? Because Trump to that point had not done any outbound fundraising. He had self-funded his entire primary with $38 million, I think, of his own cash.
Wow.
He says, can you help us with that? And I remember thinking, I don't have an answer if I can help you, because that you need everyone that we have working for our company right now. And I don't even know what I would bill you for coming in and helping you. There's not, he said, just think about it. And so I can still remember we were in Iowa doing a meeting with somebody, and it came time for my appointed call with Brad to say whether or not we were going to do it. And I can still remember the parking lot, calling him and saying, I just don't know how we're going to charge this. I don't know how we would bill for it. I just don't know what to do. And he says, if I just give you this money, can you just come down and help? So I was like, all right, whatever. So we went down to San Antonio, met with him in his office, the Giles Parscale digital office. He had, and just started helping. And there were 2 Cambridge Analytica people there. There was an RNC guy there by that time, and us.
Wow.
And just, I remember drawing on a board. This is what you need to scale up your digital operations. I think I didn't actually do the drawing. I think it was probably Matt Oskowski with Cambridge Analytica, but was drawing what needed to happen. And Gary Kobe, who was the RNC rep there, who had previously worked for us, said, you just need to stay down here. And so we decided that. Kristen stayed down there for 4.5, 5 months.
Wow.
And to tell you how smart I was, I said, Kristen, we can't both be down here because we all know Trump's going to lose. and
that's why I was saying before, we don't know. Don't listen to us.
So I better run the rest of the company because those are the clients that'll still be around, but Trump's going to lose. And even up till election night, I didn't think he was going to win. I think Kristen was a little more optimistic than I was, being more privy to some of the data they were seeing. But I was, there's no way. On election night, she was invited to go to New York to be with the Trump family and some of the key campaign staff. And I told her to turn it down. I was like, don't go.
I want you to come home.
Come home. Who wants to be at the party of the guy who loses?
Oh my gosh.
I know. I listened to him too.
Yeah.
I listened to him.
Oh no.
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. But if I could we need to wrap this long story. Oh, Ryan, we tried to warn you. But what's cool about it, the one thing that's amazing, and it's not just in politics, it's in every business, right? Going back to relationships, even relationships that you don't think will matter. They do, and people remember, and they can refer you, and they can. I mean, here we are bumping back into you more than a decade, however, these years later, and it's like, oh wow, this is amazing. What are you doing now? And so the world is a small place. Relationships matter. Your reputation, your integrity is everything. And even going back, I mean, to Senator Cruz, we didn't join. And they were okay with that. They understood. We were able to still come on later. And by the way, he's been a client ever since.
Wow.
He was our number one client just in this last election. And how many years later is that?
Wow.
And we have stayed and we have been working for his team. And we're very proud. We raised more money for him. He raised the most money of any candidate outside of a presidential. And we're very proud of that. And he's been amazing to work for. And his team's been amazing. And the example of Trump and how that all happened, even though that was insane. We developed such a great relationship with Brad, and then he later became the campaign manager, and we still keep in contact to this day. And he's now doing work with Salem Media. And so and that's true in any business industry. And so I think, if I could try to turn this into any type of
that's good.
A lesson that could be helpful, it's just that you can't know how these things are going to shake out. And even the joke we made about the 14-hour trip, for the one meeting. Yeah. And then we later still did work with that individual, with both of them, in fact.
Yeah.
And so
it's
just a very
here's Kristen delivering value. I'm just liking telling stories. She's delivering.
That's all good.
Value.
You guys make a great team.
Yeah. Yes, because that Trump story could go on forever. But
for sure. And we could go geek out on all kinds of stories you have about.
Well, and Brad did such a great job of running that digital operation. If I were to say one thing, that's what might also be a good business lesson, is if I had to give one reason I think Trump did better than expected, it's that most of us professional political people thought he was going to lose. So most of the professional political people gravitated to Jeb Bush because they all thought Jeb Bush was going to win that primary. I didn't. I was at least smart enough to think the Bush era is done.
It's done.
But most people went there, and then the rest of us tried to sign on with like the standard people that should do well, Scott Walker, Ted Cruz in our case. And then so he got a different crowd, like Brad Parscale, who had never done a campaign before but believed in Trump. And was a smart digital guy. It's not like he didn't know anything. He just hadn't done political campaign.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so Brad didn't come with any preconceived notions or rules of how you're supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And so the stuff that Trump was doing in 2016, if I had been in charge of it, we would never have touched. Like targeting Democrats with fundraising ads. Like I would have never done that. That doesn't make any sense. But because Brad was sort of running it sort of data focused and didn't have any preconceived notions about it, they discovered, by the way, there was this giant pocket of Democrats who loved Trump and were actually giving him money. In fact, during the campaign, there were a couple of Democrat operatives who wrote an editorial or were quoted about how stupid the Trump campaign was because they were seeing ads for Trump as a Democrat. And
they didn't know.
What they didn't know was that Trump had discovered there was a profile of Democrats. And now we're seeing them, there's a whole crew of them, that kind of union voting, blue collar, non-college educated Democrat that's now voting Republican, which is like overnight, by the way, the whole parties have changed, right? The more rich you are now, the more likely you are to be a Democrat, not a Republican. And so that's it's a good lesson there. There was no preconceived notions on the part of Brad, and so that really helped that.
He welcomed new ideas. I mean, the way that team was run, it was just, you never would have seen that I mean, the Romney campaign where there were 12 layers of approvals and how many layers of, attorneys reviewing everything. And it was just very different.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded, because I really do want to respect your
No, it's all
your
going
time. But if anybody is geeking out and they want to hear more, we did do a podcast interview with him on our show. So if anybody wants to hear more of the nitty gritty, they can get that there.
Yeah.
Spare you.
Well, we didn't even tell as long a story as when we were on with Brad.
But tell me, so in the book you talk about the 5 Ps, and we'll just maybe go over a couple of them real quick. The first one is really powerful, and you said that the Trump campaign understood this well, or Donald Trump himself understands this. It's people, and you say you must understand the people, who they are, what they care about, and what motivates them. So I'm just curious. You want to flesh that out a little bit, and some of the other stuff maybe that you've learned from politics that carries over into business.
Yeah. So I'll back up a smidgen so that people can get context here. What we've written a book about a distinct set of people. We call them liberty spenders. So think of it this way. We've raised $500 million and more now for people to donate money to politicians in $25, $35, $45 increments. You're talking probably 13 to 15 million transactions. So we know how to get a typical conservative or Christian to donate to a politician. Those same people buy cars, cats, coffee, homes, everything you can think of.
Web design.
They're buying stuff on Amazon. All of those people do all the stuff that every other consumer do. In fact, they spend $5 trillion a year, our liberty spenders, on all that kind of stuff. And we really wanted to dig into this idea of, okay, we know these people, we know they give to Trump, we know they give to Ted Cruz. What's their consumer behavior look like? How is this affecting their purchasing patterns? We found 76.5 million people who self-represent that they are conservative or Christian, who are significantly more likely to buy from a company that matches their Christian or conservative values, right? So these are the kinds of people who drive by a Popeyes and go an extra 20 minutes to get to Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
Or if Michael's and Hobby Lobby are right next to each other, they're buying from Hobby Lobby. Or they buy coffee from Black Rifle Coffee Company. They have cell phone service with Patriot Mobile. They don't buy Pampers. They buy Every Life diapers. They are really looking at the values of a consumer. And by the way, we highlighted the Christian and conservative profile of them, but 62% of all Americans have said in the last 12 months they've started or stopped buying a product over a values misalignment.
Yeah.
So what we say to businesses, people are already looking at your values, particularly your political and faith values, as a business owner before you even share.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they care.
And they care. Look at we see it writ large with people keying Teslas right now.
Yes.
Which is sort of the extreme version and the criminal version of this behavior. But we also saw it with Bud Light consumers who didn't like the signing of Dylan Mulvaney as a influencer for Bud Light, and they lost $27 billion with a B in value in their company in 30 short days.
Yeah. Wow.
And so customers are already doing this. Doesn't matter where you come from, right? And so our basic argument in the book is you've got to lead with convictions in your marketing. We call it conviction-driven marketing because customers are asking. The lessons apply no matter where you stand ideologically. We just happen to be experts in, we are Christian, we are conservative, and we're experts in Christian conservatives. So if you're ever going to lead with your convictions and marketing with your convictions, you want to hire the firm who actually shares your values as well. But so that's the background. And then we say there's 5 Ps you need to master to get conviction-driven marketing right. The first one is people, and you're right. Trump really has it, still has it, by the way. Bill Maher said something interesting on a show a couple weeks ago. He said that Trump is so good at always doubling down on who he is at every point. And he says voters, they don't always understand policy, but they understand people, and they can spot a fake a mile away, right? So, with Trump, you can have all sorts of criticisms of his policy, maybe how he talks to people, but you can't argue that he isn't Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
He's not making it up. He's not one thing one day and the next thing the other day. You always kind of know what Donald Trump's going to do.
Yes. Yes.
And so he really gets his people. He knows his people. He's always doubling down on his people. And he got that from the very beginning in 2016, understanding. I mean, he's a
brilliant,
one of the richest guys in the country. He manages to connect really well with people who are not wealthy, but he really got it. He always steered into it.
Yeah.
He understood there was a percentage of the population that feels disaffected in this economy, who feels like they can't get ahead, and this rural white population where the jobs are leaving town, drugs are moving in, and at the same time, Hollywood's telling them they're full of white privilege, right? And this was sort of, Donald Trump got it and understood it. So understanding your people is so important. Talk about people and positioning. Trump had a really good positioning during his entire campaign. In where he stood compared to the other candidates. If we go back to Ted Cruz, Scott Walker, whatever, like you kind of knew he stood in this sort of populist lane.
Yes.
He never left it.
Yeah.
He was still there, by the way, right? He's not changed one iota.
Yeah, he's authentic, right?
Yeah, right. And so
that
he really got
is
that
needed in business. Where do you in relation to this, how are you positioning yourself with consumers? What do they need to know about you so that you can attract customers to you?
Yes.
What's going to differentiate you? Are you just like an also, as we would call it an also ran? Are you just a Me Too company that just looks like every other company or every other consultant? What makes you different? What makes people want to work with you versus someone else? And this is one approach that you could take to try to differentiate.
Yeah. Kristen's 100% right. And you get this. I know you've done work on Amazon, some other places. Like Amazon is a market that's not real friendly to people who want to own a product niche, because you can sell your widget one day and it can be copied by the Chinese the next day or by Amazon themselves, right? So it's so difficult to differentiate. But you could differentiate on your values. Now, Chick-fil-A has I think the best chicken sandwich, right? But I also go there because they so match my values. They're closed on Sunday. Yeah. Their owners are faith friendly. I would stick with them if their sandwich got a little crappier, right? Don't do it, by the way. If Dan Cathley's listening, stick with the quality. But I would stick with them. Yeah. Because I have no beef with the Popeyes product. I think the Popeyes product is just fine. It's particularly good on Sundays when Chick-fil-A's closed. But that's what these positioning yourself well. And then the other passionate story, Trump got that well. Anybody who was alive and voted in 2016 could still tell you what Donald Trump ran on in 2016 today. They can name his slogan, "Make America Great Again." Does anybody know what Hillary Clinton's slogan was? Remember that? I can't even remember what Kamala was running on, and that was just 6 months ago. Right. But I can still, people are wearing hats with it internationally, right?
Yes. It's very clear.
And you knew what his issue package was. You knew he wanted to shut down the border. You knew it was just he had the sort of passionate story thing down.
He did. Does. Yeah.
And then what was interesting about Trump, which most people don't appreciate, and we got Brad Parscale to tell the story on our podcast as well, because it doesn't appear this way because he looks so instinctual when you watch him, but he was actually really obsessive about data on his campaign. One of the reasons he spent so much money on digital is because he could track the results of money being spent on digital. You don't really know what happened. You run a TV ad, you don't really know if it worked or not. You can do a poll before and after, but there's a million factors that could have influenced that. But you can look at digital, know how many people clicked on it, how many people donated. He loved it. Brad would tell stories of having to take him charts and graphs to convince him to run money on television ads. Because he was like, I want to see data. He's got this great story about being on his plane with him and he's eating McDonald's and telling him,
that's real, by the way. That's authentic.
It is real.
Love for McDonald's. That's real.
And just like how he would say, he hated, he's cheap kind of. I mean, again, you don't get that impression of him, but people who are wealthy don't actually spend like crazy people.
Yeah.
And so he didn't want to spend like a crazy person on his campaign. And so he'd tell Brad, like, go to the corner because Brad's trying to talk him into spending more money.
Right.
He'd eat something. He'd eat a McDonald's cheeseburger or whatever, and then say, "Come on over." And then
That's hilarious.
Carts and grass. So he was passionate about having proof.
Yeah.
And I think that what so many marketers get wrong, particularly most vanilla marketers, is it's just like, this is my gut. My gut says this out of work. This worked for some client 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We have a mutual client right now that just experienced that. The marketing firm had some success for a client a couple of years ago. Came and brought that case study to him, said, look, we can do this for you. He's 15, 20 grand into it. No results, right?
Wow.
No one, because it's just, well, it worked there. This is my gut tells me it'll work for you. No one,
Right.
They didn't test anything. They didn't run it past a panel. So we talk about proof. And then the masterful thing for Trump, and he did both of his elections, was understanding how to do a product rollout. Trump spent $5 a vote in Iowa. Jeb Bush spent $5,000. And Trump did it by mastering how to roll out his product, which at the time was cable news. He mastered cable news. He was everywhere. He was ratings friendly. He knew how to dominate and make them want to put him on. And he got billions of dollars of free media coverage. By the time 2020 came around, the cable news companies were trying to not cover him.
Right.
In 2024, he mastered podcasters and big influencers like Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn and several other big shows that he got on, and he recognized cable news dead, right?
Yes.
But this is how we do it this time.
Yeah.
We go to independent media.
Yep.
So he's really good at that. So we teach in our book about how to recognize that, use conviction-driven marketing, go through our 5 Ps, and use that as a way to take your business to the next level, in a way that your competition is going to think about. Right. This is
so good.
Even though it's already happening, by the way, they're not. We were all taught. I'm an Xer, right? I was taught not to talk about politics and religion. But we're past those days, right?
Yeah.
Now we're all on social media talking about politics and religion all day, every day. So we're past that faux pas. So now not only are we talking about it, but people are asking brands.
Yeah.
So where do you stand?
Yeah.
They're now expecting it. They're expecting it. And as much as some of us may wish, like, oh, can you just stick to making the Kleenex and the soap and like stay out of the rest of this stuff? It's just not how.
Yeah.
It's just not how things are working.
Right.
And you can use that to your advantage. And not only that, not only from a differentiation perspective, but for those of you who this speaks to, that there's a little stirring in your heart, it also gives you such an opportunity to have greater fulfillment with your business.
Oh, that's so good. Yes.
Connected it to something that you're passionate about that's greater than yourself. It's a beautiful thing. So many entrepreneurs that we talk to, they feel stuck. You're in this grind. You know that whatever passion you had when you first started your company, it's still there, but gosh, I'm lost in like this mouse wheel of like hitting my sales, and then it starts all over again, and I'm transactional with my customers, and I don't really have any feeling of relationship. And so this is just another way where you can tie that back together. And it's amazing what it can do, not only just for the owner, but, if you have a team, even a small team to kind of rally around.
Yes.
And maybe it's just, you know what? We're going to show our values. We're going to decide that we're going to adopt a charity.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
That we're going to care about, or we're going to donate a portion of our profits, or, it doesn't there's so many layers that you could make that work for you. But we're hearing feedback. Everyone wants to grow their revenue and grow their business, right? But there's these other ancillary benefits. And we're so tribal that they're getting more referrals, right? Word of mouth is stronger. There's a lot of benefits for people if it makes sense and it connects.
That's so good.
Yeah. So
Love
many
it.
businesses in this space. There's a story about it in one of our chapters about Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is a wireless service provider. They represent themselves as America's only Christian and conservative wireless provider. They have a higher retention rate than their billion-dollar competitors.
Wow.
So when you market this way and you draw people in with conviction, so they don't just love your wireless service, but they love what you stand for.
Yes.
They hang around more. They're willing to be more patient, more forgiving. It doesn't mean you can have a crappy product, by the way.
Sure.
If crappy products go away, Liberty spenders want to have good products too. But it does mean that some of them willing to pay a little more. Many of them are willing to be more patient, and you get a higher retention rate.
Yeah.
And there's another example in there from a coffee shop, same kind of deal. They have a mission focused. They're Christian. The owners are Christian, and he wants to hire he calls them post prison people, but it's felons. He hires only felons.
Wow.
And helps them turn their lives around. Most of them can't get jobs. They come, they work for him.
Yeah.
He sells the coffee on the great coffee he produces. It's actually quite good. I have a bean. And then, but the retention stays because after they buy the coffee, they get a whole series of marketing messages about the good they do.
Yeah.
And if you want to have an ugly cry, go to ihaveabean.com and check out his video about it. Because I don't do it in public like I did. I'm in a coffee shop bawling my ears out. People probably thought somebody died, but his retention rate is significant. He said. It's because they buy into the mission. Now they bought the coffee for the quality, right? And I think that's the subtlety that's important there. He makes really good coffee, but they stay because they believe in his mission and believe in the faith.
So good.
And how he changes lives. So there's a part of the purpose or part of the value of doing this kind of marketing with convictions is your retention rate, your reorder rate will go up.
That's so good. I love it. Where can people find you?
Well, find us on our website at libertyspenders.com/unleashed. So we've got we'll have a special landing page for your people. And there they can get a copy of the book. They can also get some free resources. We have a bunch of data on our Liberty spenders, so they can see. We call our data Bible, so they can see that.
Nice.
And they can also book a call with us.
Okay.
We wrote the book though. Go get the book because we wrote the book with the design
you can get it for free.
It's free
cool.
and it's really practical, right? We didn't write something that was 20 pages to make you want to call us. We wrote something that we think is somebody could take and implement. But for those of you who want some help. You can join us. We have a couple of ways you can join us. You can hire us. We're a marketing agency. We can come in and market with somebody, but we also are starting a new a group that people can join to learn some of these things together.
That's awesome.
And we really get into the weeds with them and get into their businesses and do hot seats. And we bring in interesting people to talk to them. And so, but we're a little new to that.
Cool.
But we really wanted to offer something for people who wanted to do it themselves, really. Yeah. Maybe with our support versus somebody wanted us to do it for them.
Love it. Well, guys, thanks for being on. It was so fun catching up and hearing all your fun stories, and try not to split your pants in front of any more presidents.
Yeah. Well, I think I got way too many glances from my wife that I was rambling on to. I love telling a good story. You might have picked up. No, but we're happy to be here, and we hope we provided a lot of value to your people.
You did. It was awesome.
And Ryan, we're excited for you and all that you're doing.
Thank you.
It's tremendous.
Appreciate it.